Billy Keck.
Billy Keck, isn't his model? Alrighty. See if we get this thing up and running. I've got more in the refrigerator if you need it.
Playful Pet Portraits. That's cool.
Yeah, that's the whatchamacallit. Now, for some odd reason, can you see if we're on? My phone's not allowing me because it's the same account. I think is what it is.
Mm.
I want to see if we're actually live at this point.
Let's see. Yeah, it's showing us live.
Okay, well, you're gonna have to pay attention to for questions and stuff. Can you tell how many people we got on there?
It
Is
says
yours got?
yeah, mine's showing 14.
All right, we'll give it a little bit of time. Just a few more minutes. Let everybody get on. Sorry, we're running a little bit behind. Uh, Work and stuff.
Kids.
Honey-do list. Yeah. Life in general.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're starting to bump up there now. All right.
That's what we get feedback.
All righty, we're going to get started, and we got a first question already up here. Did anyone share the poll results with Gabe Williams? I have no clue, don't know. I don't have his number to contact him, but I'm sure word gets around pretty quick around here. I'm sure he knows what's going on. I think somebody had actually, I believe, a member Roger Dale Hamilton had actually tagged him on the poll. So yeah, who knows? I doubt will ever be addressed. But moving on, let's jump in here. What's going on with recapping this meeting and kind of giving you a gauge on what's going to happen in coming in. We're coming into the budget cycle, so there's quite a bit to understand, and this is going to do city and county. Um, but going back to the meeting last Thursday, May 8th, there was 3 items on the agenda. Um, the first item, obviously, was the big thing was the rate increase, and that did pass. That passed 4-3. Gordon Wildridge, Jimmy White, and Tim Rhodes voted no. Sandra Wood, Gabe Williams, Fred Ellis, and Roger Lofton all voted yes. Now, there's quite a bit of discussion in there between the board member alderman on that. One of the best things to do is watch the video there because there's a lot of information that was shared there, and a lot of information we're finding out is erroneous. Again, this is where transparency really matters in government. We just don't have it, but information was shared in that meeting that we actually shared on the taxpayers page because we figured it was factual. It's being stated by an alderman, but come to find out it wasn't. And that goes back into the rate increases for the last 10 years is what it is, since 2016. We actually have posted that in another post, and what was stated was that the utilities department, water and sewer, I believe, is where the charts that we got that we posted up. It was stated that they only got a 2% raise, COLA raise every year. Come to find out, that's not the case at all. There was some substantial, I think a 5.9, 8.7.
Yeah.
There was some pretty big raises in there, rate increases. Let me rephrase that there, which actually coincided with the raises along the time that the board started pushing that there. So it was the same percentage. So yeah, there's which leads me to question is, well, you know what? Instead of having a 2% increase, we've actually had some pretty substantial increases in there. That's additional revenue.
Yeah.
And now something too from that meeting, Justin Roach had made a comment about two things I want to get in with him commenting on. Number one, Tim Rhodes asked a question, and this was back to a sheet of that we a couple of pages that we shared back on the page a little bit ago. This whole thing about rate increases is coming from this new Tennessee Department of utility regulations.
Yeah, board.
Yeah, I think this was created, I believe Justin said it was created 2021.
It's fairly new, huh?
Yeah, so this is where we are, and this is what some of the stuff that's going on and why it's being put out there. But if you go back in, the letter that was sent down to the city from this department stated that the fiscal year, which ended June of 2024, we'll say end of June, June 30th, stated that we were negative like $1.2 million. That's a substantial amount of money.
Yeah.
Well, Tim Rhodes wanted to know why the board was told that the utility department was in good financial shape so that they could share, so they could get a pay raise, a 5% pay increase.
Right.
And come to find out that they weren't in good financial standings. And he never got an answer to it. But there was something said in that there that I really want to note, because paying attention, I can't stress that enough. Every time Tim asked that there, Justin brought up, we're getting there, we're generating more revenue. Well, that still didn't answer the question of Tim saying, you know, you send to the state at the end of our fiscal year that we're negative $1.2 million, yet you're telling us that we were good. I mean, it's one or the other. It can't be both.
Right.
And Tim never got an answer. He asked and asked and asked, and he just never got an answer.
Right.
That's just always a two-step around it.
And I thought what was odd too was the gentleman that come in from the consulting group discussed that this was the first time he'd ever seen this type of letter talking about cash reserves being insufficient. This wasn't what he had normally seen as the net negative change in position, overall position. It was the cash reserves. And he said, he thinks he's going to see more of this. It's just, I don't know, it's kind of odd, and it begs the question, why I guess maybe didn't get some type of warning ahead of time instead, or maybe this is the warning letter to us.
I kind of would think since it's a new organization by the state,
Yeah.
that this would be kind of a warning letter. Hey,
Yeah. This is what's coming down the pipe.
But and I go back in there. I mean, in that letter, I mean, they talked about cash management,
Right.
which is going to be addressed tomorrow night.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think some of the stuff that was in that letter really wasn't hitting us hard at saying that we needed to raise rates. It just said we needed to make some corrective actions. So, the rate thing, again, kind of bugs me because I go back to what Tim was asking on that question. But I think that there was, in that letter coming back from the state, I mean, they really didn't harp on us to be that we were in. They just stated the facts, but they pretty much just told us that we needed to manage our money better.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, and that's what the letter stated. So, why we need to generate more revenue? It just seems that we got bad cash management principles. I mean,
And I will say, like I said, we work with some utility companies over in Decatur County that some of these smaller utility companies, which were not nearly the size of, for instance, like Parable, they have a staffing issue sometimes in order to have the proper cash management cycle to where you have multiple people, where you have different people taking it in versus the people recording it for that day, and that's a lot of times what we get in trouble for. Like I said, once again, kind of not great, but something I've kind of seen before. And so, like I said, I don't know how bad that is from the state's perspective because I've seen it on multiple audits across the years as far as, them coming in to take over somebody and, like I said, correct it. I know that was one of the things that was stated, you don't want the state coming in here taking us over. I mean, I don't think we're in dire straits, kind of how it was put out there.
I don't either. I think that was a missell. Yeah. And I'll go back to, we had made a post about this. This has been a few years ago. Mason, Tennessee. Mason is over there in Hayward County. And this is where Ford Motor Company's coming in there to bring in the big plant over there. Mason was in a perfect position for massive expansion because of their location to Ford coming in there. Now what had happened is for years and years and years, there has been absolute horrible mismanagement in that city. And I think it's bordered somewhere in the 15 to 20 year range that the state comptroller will allow it to happen.
Yeah.
And I mean, there was fraud involved in that one there. And it wasn't until Ford Motor Company came in, and then Mason became for lack of better terms, it became a pot of gold pretty much. I mean, that place there is,
Blew up.
yeah, that, it was there. Well, what happened was, legislative body changed, and actually it went to a minority type body. I believe, I believe probably 75 to 80% of it was a black board over there. And all of a sudden, here comes the comptroller down there when this all changed, and was going to revoke their charter and take over that city. And I believe with help from ACLU, NAACP, and some other organizations, Mason fought back. Now the comptroller's got the thumb on that city now because of such bad management. But I haven't heard anything in a couple of years on it. But from what I understand, they were actually doing good and getting back on their feet because the growth was going to be there to help them get past that point. So the point of that there is, 15 to 20 years before the comptroller does anything. I don't think a letter we get for the first time is anything dire.
Right. No, I agree. I guess what I would have liked to see more though is when this board was created, if they're going to start going in and instilling, we're going to hold you to these accounting principles or to these type of standards where you have to have X amount of cash reserve on hand based on your operating expenses and stuff. Just send out notice to people. At the end of the day, you could probably send out a 2-page letter that says, hey, welcome, we're going to be a board that's overseeing utility districts in the event something goes awry. But here are the main things that we look for, just so you're aware of it in advance. And like I said, we're not kind of caught by surprise, or like I said, end up in a position where we have essentially somebody that comes in and tries to use this letter as a means to maybe force rate increases or make it seem like we're in dire straits.
Yeah, I mean, I get exactly what you're saying. I mean, even with that, there should be. I mean, just tell somebody you need to get in compliance or something. I mean, give me some details. Do I need you give me 2 years, 3 years, 4 years?
Right.
How quick do I need to do this here?
Right. And do you just need to see progression in 6 months, like we're heading in the right direction, or like you said, is it we got to raise 20% increase by December? And like I said, that way we kind of have an understanding. At the end of the day, we're not caught in the dark. I think that's my main thing is notice and allowing people transparency to see, and like that's where it's kind of hard when.
And that's exactly it. Now, like I said, going back into that conversation with Tim and Justin Roach over the money, Justin kept coming back as well. We're creating more revenue. We're getting more revenue, and that's based on the rate increase from 2024. So if it was already on an upward slope,
right,
is what he was trying to. I don't know why he was trying to use that as justification, but if it's on an upward slope, why do we need to do a raise, a rate increase right now?
Right.
Because he's telling us, we're going in the right direction. So why do we need to go even further in the right direction?
Yeah, I agree.
We just don't know all the information, and that's it is what it is. So.
Well, and I think the part that people have problems with is it's just like you said before, we had raises last year, told that everything was hunky dory, we're doing fine, great, and then come to find out there's a report out there that we're insufficient by over $1 million, and I think that's what people are frustrated with, and the fact that if there's justification, if they could explain maybe where the money was going, and like I said, had some detailed lists and projects that were specific that we're going to use it towards, I think that may be a little different. But like I said, I haven't necessarily seen a whole lot. I know they're supposed to be putting one together, but I haven't seen it yet.
And even then, when that's supposed to be put together, they kept saying, well, this isn't set in stone. This isn't set in stone. It can change. But if you have a plan, you have a plan.
Agreed.
And I mean, so I don't understand why, if you already have a 5-year plan and you've used that to determine that you need this amount of revenue by increasing the rates,
right,
then you already have a plan.
Yeah, and you
just throw it out there and let us see it.
Agreed. Yeah.
It ain't rocket science. I mean, it's simple.
Yeah.
But this is par for the course, and we'll come back to the. Take note of that. There, we're still looking for information, and we're not getting information.
Right.
And that'll come back to a little bit. I'm going to bring back up in the public comments where I actually got up and talked to the board. Moving to the next thing, though, and it's kind of tying Dixon Street. I believe that's out by Kaywood School.
It is, yeah.
Okay. Apparently, there's some public works works that needs to be done out there,
yeah,
in addition to utilities.
Yeah.
So you know, there was discussion on this thing here, and it went kind of back and forth. I think they eventually, Casey Kyle got up there first about getting his approval for part of it, and then Fred Ellis wanted, I think it was Fred Ellis that wanted to hear from Justin first before voting on Casey, because both of them were hinging on each other, and the utilities department, I believe, was $1.7 million ahead for grant in that bid.
Yeah.
Now, and I'm a little bit confused because when Justin got up there to talk about that, one of the things that was said was there is, what was it? It goes back to the previous meeting where he was talking about, you know, we expected a bid to come in at $2 million, then it came back at $5.5 million.
Yeah.
All right. Well, now we're finding out in this meeting that yes, there was actually a bid a little less than 2.1 million, but they didn't like the contractor, so they went to the contractor that they wanted to take that actually had the highest bid, which is normally not how the cities operate. I've always seen them they always go for the low bid. This time they're going for the high bid, and in going with the high bid, they had to remove a bunch of stuff out of the bid.
Yeah.
So a bunch of work's not going to get done because they wanted to take the high bidder. I got questions about why that would be. I mean, if you're saying the bottom guy's no good, what about the middle guy? Nobody ever talked about him. He may have maybe a good company.
Right. That could have been somewhat more reasonable.
Right. And how much did we? I mean, I think he was somewhere to 3.5 million for the second bid.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken.
So, $2 million of well, actually no, that was, it came in at 1.9 million after the change. So we're talking about, wow, $3.1 million of work got erased off of that there.
Yeah.
I mean, if the other guy was at 3.5 million, you know, we need to get down to 1.9. I mean, we would have only lost 1.4 million in work there. Something just don't add up there.
Right.
I mean, I think we took a big hit there somewhere, but again, do we have the information? No,
Right.
We don't see it. But anyway, that did pass. I believe Tim Rhodes was the only one who voted no for that.
Yeah.
And Tim voted no. He gave the explanation that because he voted no on
The first time.
the rate increases, and the money from the rate increases was going to use to pay for this project,
Yeah.
he's like, I can't vote for it for that reason. Now, going back into case of Kyle, and this is something that you kind of need to pay attention to as well. From the last meeting, back at the tail end of April, this information was brought up, and then of course it was brought up again last week. But when it was brought up with Casey, he made a comment in the first meeting that because they're talking about paving in the road itself, I'm guessing the where the asphalt comes up, it's real close to the curbing.
Yes.
So they're going to have to mill it down. They got to shave it down so because if they put the asphalt up there, then the curbing does nothing to direct
Catch the
rainwater for stormwater purposes.
Yeah.
So they got to cut down that road
Yeah.
and then put asphalt back up so they can still have a lip on the curb.
Right.
In the April meeting, he stated that he was going to talk to the contractor because in the bid they had paving in there. No milling, but they had the paving in there. But he was going to talk to the contractor about getting the paving pulled out of the bid so that they could handle the milling. Okay, well, that was the tail end of April. So, you know, we're talking about a week and a half.
Yeah.
And we come back into the May 8th meeting. And he still hasn't talked to the contractor on the bid about taking and
Removing
cutting that.
portion
Yeah.
of it. Yeah.
Why hadn't he already done that there so he could give the board correct information on what the bid was?
Yeah.
So now the board has actually approved it for a certain dollar amount. And if this money gets reversed, gets pulled off by the contractor, well, now we've got excess money sitting out there that's supposed to go for paving.
No. Who knows?
Who knows what
Yeah.
happens? I mean, because that money at this point is earmarked for that project.
Right.
You know, are they going to take another bidding for paving for the milling and the paving?
Or
Who
is it going
knows?
to come out of maintenance expense for the county or the city roads? Or, I mean, or how,
I mean, it's
yeah. My thing with that one was, you know, and I thought kind of Fred was trying to get towards that was, you know, more of the cost sharing aspect of it, and why I wanted to talk to Justin before, you know, he approved what Casey was asking for, because at the end of the day, if you're going to tear up a bunch of the roadway for your project, and then somebody's coming back in later on and going to tear up more for another utility
Right.
project, and then they're going to pay for the paving of it. I mean, it makes sense to pave it once instead of going through there and we're going to do a spot repair here and another spot repair here, and then we're going to mill it back down, and then we're going to pave it
We're gonna
again.
do it again.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, you know, time and time again, we've kind of seen these kind of Band-Aid fixes, and then we end up, like I said, with a massive repair on top of it, and it costing millions of dollars.
Alrighty, all right, I answered some questions. Candy Davis, why raise rates if we're in an upward slope? I mean, that's
Yeah,
heck. If we actually saw the plan, we might understand somewhat. But you know, we're just kind of floating in the dark right now.
yeah,
And as usual, we don't get any information. And, you know, it just doesn't get put out there.
yeah. So I will say some of the things that they kind of threw out just in general, without being, you know, very specific, was there's a lot of infrastructure that's 30 to 50 years old now, and was designed for, you know, capacities back then, or what they had projected for, you know, maybe 10 years later, so probably sometime in the early 2000s. A lot of that stuff is, you know, kind of undersized, because it's been just kicked down the road for so long now that we're actually starting to see some problems. You know, and that's like, oh wow, you know, we've really let some of our main lines get way behind, and that was one of the things Gordon brought up. You know, is, you know, we supplied the at least the sewer portion for Parker's Crossroads. We're pumping crap. What was it? What do you say? 14 or 17
I think it
miles?
was 12 miles. I
Oh,
think
my.
is what I saw.
Long ways.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a long ways, and they're, you know, seeming like they're wanting to continue to grow and expand out there, and you know, that's, if we have to resize that line, I mean, it's going to be a costly endeavor. I mean, we just seen the sewer line on Old Huntington Road, and that was a $800,000
$800,000.
project for
Yeah.
less than half a mile.
Yeah, it wasn't much.
So I mean,
And you know, and I'm not sure why we have Parker's Crossroads on the city sewer system. I don't understand that whatsoever.
yeah,
Because I don't know if anybody did a cost analysis on that there. I don't know.
yeah. I'm not
I don't
sure.
see a return on investment there.
Great friends, I guess. Good neighbors, not
Yeah,
good friends.
there you go.
You know, to the people out there are good. Like I said, that's the only thing I can really think. I hope there's some way that they're generating a fund to help maybe subsidize a portion of it or something like that, instead of it all coming out of our coffers. And we're hoping to get it back on rates from them, because you know, it gets to be 30, 40 plus years, you know, with just rates to getting paid back for that one project, and that's assuming we don't do anything else along the way.
Right. And,
So.
and no maintenance, no upkeep, no growth.
Right.
Yeah, that's
Right.
yeah. There's some good questions on that one. They're not really sure. Let me see here.
Well, Justin also said there was was it 17 miles or 100 and something miles?
177 miles.
177 miles. That's what it was. Undersized main line for the electric department.
Yeah, I think there's 177 miles.
I believe that's what he said was
Yeah, I
undersized.
think it's
main.
170. Yeah,
Yeah, it was a lot.
yeah, that's quite a bit, and I get that. I mean, you know, we've had growth, and you know, where my question is, you know, let's go back to the ARPA funds.
Mhm.
They had, I believe, 1.1 million of the ARPA funds was actually allocated for infrastructure to fix what we don't see.
Right.
It's laying up underground. And that money got shifted around. They bought some more toys. They did some pay raises. And here we are. We just lost 1.1 million. And this was back probably about 2 years ago.
Right.
I mean, back then, $1.1 million worth a whole lot more than it is right now. So, I mean, we could have got quite a bit of work
Right.
done with that money.
Agreed.
Instead of going the route that it did go with it. And like I said, yeah, I mean, their infrastructure's old. It's aging. It's going to need to be repaired.
Right.
But without seeing a plan, I mean, you can't expect much support from people not knowing what you're going to do.
Right. Oh, I agree. And that's, you know, and even if we don't get a plan, you know, I guess my thought is, you know, have some type of chart or table that has the project area that defines, you know, kind of what it is, just relatively real short, brief description. Give an idea of criticality. Like, is it just absolutely falling apart, failing now? We're gonna have the state come in and take us over if they find out, or is it, you know, it's undersized, but we're still supporting everybody. They got plenty of pressure in their homes for water or stuff like that. And then also, how many people does it affect? You know, is it affecting 50 people? Is it affecting 5,000 people? You know, I think there's some differences there. And then kind of a relative cost on the low and high end. and if you put that out there for people, and like I said, maybe maybe some photos showing why or explaining why, people might be a little more understanding, and be willing to engage in a rate increase. But when people just continue to see people across the board getting 5, 10, I believe Tim told me at one point last year that without even compounding, they had given them like 22% rate increase, or not a rate increase,
Yeah, raises. Yeah, I know there
over
was.
a 18-month period.
I know it had to
2
be
years?
about 3 years.
Oh, my.
I know there was a 5.9, an 8.7, and a 5.0. And I believe it was a 3% before that.
I think there was a 2 or 3% in there somewhere too.
Yeah, I think there was a 5 point, like I said, it was 5.9, 8.7. And on that rate increase, it actually gives you the numbers for the COLA.
Oh, my.
So, and I believe that's when the rate, the payment. So yeah, he's right. It's somewhere around about, I guess, 22% if you looked at it. But I mean, and that's that's really not fair to say that they got 22% in raises.
All right.
Just because of, again, as you're compounding it,
Right.
and try not to get into words that may be over some of our listeners' heads. It's you can't sit and say, all right, it's 22% increase. You got to look at it because the increase comes in and it jumps up a little bit, and then it jumps up a little bit more. So
All right.
technically, it probably would be a little bit higher than what the actual 22 is straight
Like
salary. would be.
29, 30, something like that.
Yeah, it would increase quite a bit.
My problem with stuff like that is the fact that I get people having especially on the lower pay scale wages that if you go from $15 to $18 percentage wise, that looks like a lot. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? But at the end of the day, overall, $2,000 or something overall for
Right.
the year. But when we do that across the board for people, in administrative management stuff like that, it starts adding up fast.
Yeah.
$5, $10, $20,000. And people wonder where the money's going. And like I said, I mean, it don't take long, because then you're also thinking of pension matching plans for a lot of these people, 401ks for some of them.
Other employee benefits is in there,
Yeah.
that's another thing that they talked about is what caused our issue
Yeah.
with the utility rates, with the utility company being negative, is it's all based off of the pensions that they pay out.
Oh.
And additional other benefits that they have, other personal employee benefits is what it's called. OPED is what you'll notice in the term. And that's where our problem is. And again, cash management. I think that's the reason the state's looking to. They want us to be a little bit more effective in what we do. There's some other stuff that we'll be bringing back in about pensions at a later point. It's going to definitely cause some controversy, but we'll get around to that there in week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I'm not sure yet. But yeah, there's I can't say it any other way. We don't just lack good management. I mean, it's just the city just lacks good management, and that's it is what it is. I always hear the good old boy system, and everybody's spot on when they say it, because I mean it's really out there.
Yeah.
Let's get in here. I know we got a question from Chris about the water lines down south, Sardis, Reagan, and Scotts Hill area. As far as I know, they're actually doing work out there. That's what has been said. I mean, you'll see a couple things here and there that either they'll pop something up or the paper will pop something up there and say that there's work going on down there. Now, I did notice in the newspaper this week, Scotts Hill was looking for somebody to do the GIS mapping, and for their water department. So I think they're kind of Scotts Hill is separating themselves from this whole thing, and they're going out and try to take care of the customers, I guess, is what I'm seeing. But I haven't attended any of the meetings down there, so I really don't have a lot of information for that area. But as far as I know, there was an engineering report. It's been a few years ago about how to correct the issues with water flow down south. I think they was going to set up in phases. They did the first phase, and then they just kind of went blah. Whatever happened, and never continued to advance. And unfortunately, right now, there's just not a lot of information being put out there about it. So,
Right. Once again, kind of left in the dark.
yeah, it's it's just the way it is. Now, getting back to those two motions for the public works and the utilities for doing the work at Dixon Street, that did pass. Tim Rhodes voted no on that as well. He was the only one that voted no across all three items that was on the agenda. All right. After the meeting, toward the tail end of the meeting, some people got up there and had some comments. I addressed the board and public comments, and this is how I feel. I don't speak for nobody else. You guys feel however you want to feel. I mean, that's the beauty of a free country. I pretty much told them we just don't trust. I mean, so many people I've talked to, they absolutely do not trust our local government. And there's people who do. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. Everybody's got their own opinion and they feel the way they are. But there's so many people who just don't trust it because of the mismanagement. We told one thing, then we come to find out another thing, and all that stuff just continues to build and build and build. And this molehill's turned into a mountain, and they've just done so much. If there was transparency and honesty,
Right.
you know what? I don't think half the problems up would ever happen.
Right.
I mean, I don't think they would.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I mean, it's
I think that largely, like you just said, transparency's been the main driver for why there's distrust in it,
and that's it. And
and follow through. That'd probably be the next one.
and accountability.
Yeah.
I talk with aldermen. I talk with commissioners and stuff, and and they kind of understand it. They see it. They see what's going on. But it's like one told me, it's like, we're like mushrooms. We're just kept in the dark. We don't know what the heck's going on. And that's sad when we can't go to the people that we elect. These are the people that we vote for.
Yeah.
They're supposed to represent us. They should have information. When we have a question, we should be able to go to them and ask those questions.
Yeah. And I'm not faulting somebody for not, someone having it not off the top of their head or right there for it, but somebody should say that, hey, I appreciate you asking that. Let me dig into it and I'll get it back to you in a reasonable time, and actually do that very thing. I think that's probably one of the biggest problems we have is people ask, they say they're going to get it, never receive it, never see anything about it. And at the end of the day, I think the biggest thing with it is, this is public funds. These are public assets. It's a public utility company. This is the people's assets. And I think they
Public. Public.
yeah,
That's us.
yeah. We should know. At the end of the day, can they give us every single thing all the time? Obviously they can't give us what each individual ratepayer paid that month.
No.
But at the end of the day, we should know what the funds are going towards as far as project wise, and also, like I said, that we're using it wisely, and like I said, not ending up with new toys or trucks or everything else. And then every time we turn around, we have a project, we bid it out. I said,
Yeah, that's something, and I hear it, and that's a contention that I have. I came into work on Saturday mornings when we come into work on the court square. It's pretty much dead. There's us and the pawn shops. Kenneth's normally here in the morning. He opens up the same time we do. But I came in one morning and they were pressure washing the crosswalks in between the city streets. And there was 5 guys from Public Works on a Saturday. Now, we pretty much know that's a time and a half. They're making some good money. One guy was pressure washing, one guy was holding the hose, and 3 guys were leaned up against the building across the street from us on their phones. Well, I happened to have an alderman come in, clip some nails, and I pointed it out. I'm like, that's where my tax dollars are going. And you would think when you point something like that out there, they would go back to the department heads, and the department heads would correct these issues. But it doesn't happen. We still see. I got a call earlier this week over there by the hospital. There was 2 trucks, 4 guys. They painted the pole and replaced the stop sign. Why in the hell do you need 2 trucks and 4 guys to paint a pole and replace a stop sign? I mean, it doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. And you know what? If I was a manager, I'd be a little bit upset about that there.
Right.
You know, what are you guys doing wasting money?
Yeah.
Because that's what you're doing is you're wasting money. And again, what happens with that there? We got to get our rates increased because we waste so much money. Um, and that's, I don't know how that gets changed until you actually, I know everybody says change the board, change the board, change the board. Yeah, is that going to fix some problems? Yeah, I think, you know, do I think every one of them need to be changed? No, I think we have some good, we have some good elected officials. Um, the key thing is who holds the majority. And there is a division between in our board. There's divisions in all government, whether it's local, federal, state. It don't matter. They're all
Right.
divisions, and it's whoever's in control is what we deal with,
Right.
and that's where we kind of are at this point. But um, something needs to be done. I mean, if managers can't manage their people, they don't need to be managers.
Right.
If
Or
they can't manage their money, they don't need to be managers.
yeah, but see, that was where I was going. But see, you got to be good stewards of public assets, and that's my main thing. And that goes down to, like you said, managing the people that work there, because at the end of the day, we're paying them salaries out of our funds.
That's it. And their funds come from us,
Yeah.
ratepayers and taxpayers.
Yeah.
All right, moving on a little bit. Let's talk about tomorrow night. Now, we did put up a post this morning. When we put that post up this morning, I reached out to 3 of the aldermen, and they had not received their packets. I believe it was around about 4:30 when they actually got their packets this afternoon. And I've looked at the packets, and the only 2 things in the packet is the cash management policy and the purchasing policy. There is no budget in these aldermen's packet right now. No budget. They haven't seen anything. We start budget discussions tomorrow. Is there a budget drafted up? Who the heck knows? I mean, after last year, after we saw 4 or 5 floating around, it just, again, here goes trust. I'm expecting they'll probably have a budget or a wish list that they'll be handed at the meeting tomorrow night,
Yeah.
because that's kind of how they've done things in the past.
You know.
And that's a major concern. I mean, they're not voting on anything with the budget, but I mean, how can you discuss something when it's handed to you at the meeting when you walk in the door?
Right.
That makes no sense whatsoever.
No. No, and I'd say, and most of the time it's multiple page packets full of information. And I mean, anything from tables and charts to, I mean, paragraphs worth of information. And they flip through it for 30 or 45 seconds and then want to enter into a discussion about it. And it's like,
I don't see how you can have a discussion.
well, I don't know how you can discuss anything that your constituents want when you can't even, like I said, discuss it with your constituents either.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly it. I reach out to them to get information, and they can't give it to me because they don't have it themselves.
Right.
I mean, this is it's ludicrous when you really think about it. I mean,
Yeah.
how can you effectively govern? And you got to remember, our Board of Aldermen and our County Commission, those are the ones who control the purse strings.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, that's the reason they're elected, is because they control our funding.
Yeah.
I wish some of them would just step up and say, you know what? We're tabling this here. We don't need to discuss it right now because we just got it.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to table it, get a second, throw a vote up there, and for the ones who vote against, who vote to not table it, then I'd be willing to bet money they probably had some kind of information beforehand.
Right.
You know, I hate to say it, but I mean, I really feel that that's what happens because some of these people are coming in there prepared, and some of them are not because they don't have the information. How can you prepare for something if you don't have the information?
I agree 100%. And like I said, at the end of the day, too, it really boils down to you're supposed to be representing your constituents. And like I said, I really don't know how you can do that if you don't have the information to share to them. You know, at least everybody. And I mean, if there's a few that do, or if it's just a few that are voting yes because you know that's what their side wants to do. You know, once again, I don't think that's right because you're supposed to be getting with the people that you represent.